Media. As consumers, we are bombarded by it at every turn, like the Incredible Hulk being bombarded by gamma rays. But what makes some media endure, while others are banished to the forgotten black hole of obscurity, never to be heard from again? Who or what decides this? Hetero life mates Steve and Yahel want to know, and they want to know now. This is Obscurity Now. And what's up, Obscurians? It's time for another episode of Obscurity Now, the show that takes a look at weird and almost forgotten pieces of media as we decide if it should be remembered for all of human history or tossed in the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again. My name is Steve, and he is actually the ancestor of Dr. Zaius himself. It's
Yahel. I'm trying to remember which character that is.
He's only...
Is he the ape that's like the scientist?
Yeah. You got it.
Okay, that's acceptable.
So you watched it last night, huh? You can't even remember. Well, it's not like they used a lot of names.
They don't really I think they only say his name like 2 times, and it's at the end, I think.
Right. I mean, he's in it for maybe 2.5 minutes. So good on you. Good on you. So hello, everyone. We are discussing the 1970s return of the Planet of the Apes, the animated series, even though it's
1975. We're deep into bell-bottom season.
Oh, man. What are your thoughts on disco?
I thought you were going to say bell-bottoms, and I was prepared.
Well, they're one and the same. So
I guess. Well, bell-bottoms, I remember, at least in Puerto Rico, they were like still a thing in the early 80s.
Oh, wow.
They overcame the disco generation. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I almost feel like I might have had a pair as a child.
Wow.
I might be misremembering that. I hope I am. But disco music, I mean, most of it's kind of bad, but I mean, I've heard a couple songs that are like, you know, they're bangers, as you would say.
Sure. Well, I just keep running into, usually it's younger people, if you will, and they like outright like the genre. And I agree with you. Like, there's some good bass lines and like horn parts, but I can't stand like the falsetto singing. And so I could never turn to someone.
I think the Bee Gees are the only one that could really get away with it.
I mean, I can only take that for so much. Like,
yeah. I mean, I don't want to listen to a whole Bee Gees album, but
right.
I can listen to like, a few songs, but
right. I mean, the bass line to "Staying Alive" is a fantastic bass line, but then when those vocals kick in, I don't know. What I'm trying to say here is that the younger generation seems to like disco, and it's tearing me apart inside.
It's funny. You like Rush, though, don't you?
I do. They're not disco.
Right, but Geddy Lee has very high-pitched vocals, very falsetto-like.
As I've said before, it took me a while to get used to that. It did.
So, and obviously, the great bass player Geddy Lee. No argument for me there. So you said though that the Bee Gees have good bass lines as well. So why is it that you gave Rush the time of day to get used to, powered through? Aped up, if you will, but you won't give the Bee Gees the same effort and time.
Okay, I am glad you asked. I will say that most.
Are you?
I don't even know why why did I even bring this up? It's because you mentioned the 70s. That's why. All right. Here's the thing.
You said that this was from the 70s.
It is. And
I agree.
And okay, so Rush songs, there's a lot more progression, especially in the beat, where with disco, you pretty much just get the same beat over and over again, and I get bored and then annoyed, and then I want to pull my hair out and never want to hear it again. So,
all right, and you do have beautiful hair, so we don't want that to happen.
As do you.
Should grow it out long again.
Well, when winter comes around, I will. I call it my winter coat. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna talk about Planet of the Apes here in a second, but before we do, All right, so last night I was doing some computery stuff, and I
Looking
know,
looking for porn. That's what
yeah,
that sounds like.
of
Okay.
course, that's all anyone ever uses a computer for.
I'm just saying the way you said it.
Well, we did have a very intense discussion about porn last episode, so I was just doing research, man. I swear. Uh,
I see.
so I noticed that there was a comment on the YouTube channel that has this show on it. I was like, what could this be on? And it was, you remember Spook Bridge, right?
Yeah. I remember Street
It
Bridge.
was the guy who played Clyde, the actor who played Clyde.
Okay.
Yeah, he found us and he said, "I can't believe you covered this. LOL. I played Clyde. It was a nightmare to shoot this. That guy Roy, the producer, went through 3 DPs. I tried my best to save this, but and work with what I had, but I don't think anyone could. And to check him out on like episode 2 of Florida Man, 13 minutes in, if you want to see something new." So
Okay.
yeah, there you go, ladies and
Pretty
gentlemen.
cool. Which character was Clyde
Oh,
though?
the main guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and his name, the actor, because I brought it up here, is Chandler Lane. So yeah, I guess he's I guess Spook Bridge didn't kill his career after all.
Yeah, good for him.
And
And hey, sounds like he's a good sport about it.
oh, indeed. And I just went ahead and I was like, hey, if you want to come on the show and tell us more, the door is open. So yeah, make sure you check out our Spook Bridge episode if you haven't. It's making waves. All right. So we've not talked about Planet of the Apes enough. So before we dive into it, though, I want to know, what is your thoughts on the Planet of the Apes franchise?
I think from the like original films,
Mm-hmm.
I want to say I've only seen one of them, and I think it's just like the one where, at the end, or maybe I don't even remember when it happens, but whenever Charlton Heston runs into like the Statue of Liberty or
Okay,
whatever.
so the original, I would say, if you were gonna watch any of them, that would be the one.
Yeah, but I mean, it was so long ago. I mean, I couldn't tell you much of what happens to in it. And then like I watched the Mark Wahlberg one,
Oh
from
God,
like
that's the worst
I don't,
one.
yeah, it wasn't great.
Hmm.
But I was watching it more for like the special effects. 'Cause that was a time where like really good CG effects, or at least for that time, it was still kind of novel.
Hmm.
Um, and I was really interested in how they did some of the apes makeup and that kind of stuff. So
Sure.
it's cool from that aspect. But yeah, story wise, it's not great.
Well,
Uh,
what are your thoughts on the original film?
I barely remember it. I
Oh.
mean, I'm pretty sure I liked it,
Hmm.
but I mean, I must have watched it like, in my early 20s or something. So
What are your thoughts on the Planet of the Apes musical starring Troy McClure?
I did not know there was one. I'd probably like it better.
I
Uh,
mean, I think that Simpsons reference is probably what made me seek out the Planet of the Apes. But no, I
and
love.
then,
What's up?
well, and then like the current series, like are these like recent ones tied to the James Franco?
Yeah, yes, they are. They all build upon each other, except for the recent one that came out, I don't know, like a week or two ago, which is part of the reason why we're discussing Planet of the Apes today.
Right,
Is
right.
takes place, I don't know, like 200 years in the future from those James Franco ones. So I don't know. Apparently, it did okay when it came out, but
Yeah, I was like shocked that they're like still making these. I'm like, I don't remember these being like big hits per se. I mean, the first James Franco one, I do remember that one kind of being a hit.
mhm.
But then the second one, I thought didn't do that well.
I
Because these are expensive movies. So I mean, to make a
sure.
profit, they got to make hundreds of millions of dollars.
Hmm. I mean, I don't really know what they did money wise. I just know that I watched them and they were good. Matt Reeves, I think the guy who directed the last Batman, I think he did the whole trilogy from the James Franco to like the third one or whatever, and they're awesome. You should check them out. And I mean, but I'd say I'm a pretty big Apes fan. I've at least seen like I saw the original and the sequel, And then I think I tried to watch the third one after that. They get pretty ridiculous, as you might imagine, as the as the franchise goes on. But yeah, I think the first one is a masterpiece, and that's mostly just due to the writing by Rod.
You're talking about Rise of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. Those are that's not the Tim Burton one, is it?
No.
Yeah.
See, man, the way these movies are named too, I have a real problem with the way this franchise names their movies. Like, some of them sound so similar. Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and then the next one after is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Right.
Like, those titles both also, like, they mean almost the same thing. They could at least be interpreted that way. Like, why would you name them this? Like, they really need to go to like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 naming structure.
I am so glad you brought that up, because obviously Hollywood has done away with that since, the Marvel movies. They've never had hey, I'm going to go watch Thor 2 or Thor 3 or Captain America 3. Like, they did away with the numbering for whatever reason, and I'm against it. Yes, it is.
Yeah,
dumb.
like, and I am convinced that, like, this is a side rant here, but don't worry, folks. There's not a lot to discuss when we get to the episode. There's a lot of still frames of animation,
a lot of panning,
a lot
too.
of walking in the desert, a lot of panning. But the like, I'm convinced that not numbering sequential things often leads to failure. And I think it's a big part of the reason why Xbox as a brand, their last few consoles haven't sold that well, because they started naming them, like, after the 360, it's like, oh, this is the Xbox One, even though it's like the third console. Then they're like, oh, the next one is the Xbox Series X, unless you get the Xbox Series S, which is still like part of the same family of like, what are you doing? Meanwhile, Sony, PS1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very easy to, like, know, like, what games are compatible with what. You're not confused. Yeah, I mean, they do have, like, their pro versions, but at least because of the numbering, it's easy.
Right.
And like the Xbox Series X is basically the pro, and then the S is like the one that's not, but they release them both at the same time. Just
yeah, it's so confusing. I mean, I think the reason why Hollywood dropped it is because they were like, oh, well, we're not going to get a bigger box office if people go back and try to watch Thor 1. Like, we want to rope everybody in, even the people who might have missed Thor 1. And I mean, I don't know if that's actually true or not. That's sort of a guess on my behalf. But yeah, no, it sucks all around.
It reminds me of when, like, Vince McMahon demanded that they stop numbering WrestleManias. And I don't know if you know, but for a few years, WrestleMania didn't have a number.
Oh, no, I never realized that. That's crazy.
Because this idiot, this man who will shit on your head against
Thank you
your
for
will.
bringing that up. Yeah.
Basically, he thought it made WrestleMania sound old. Like, if it's a person.
Oh, my God.
Meanwhile, like, the most successful sports brand in the U.S., at least, Super Bowl, like, the big part of it is, like, this is Super Bowl LX, whatever.
Yeah, it's teaching kids about Roman numerals, which they would never need to use otherwise.
Yeah. Well, anyways.
Come on, man. Roman numerals. That's a good joke. Come on.
No, they're coming back.
All right. Speaking of things that are coming back. Okay, so for those of you who might be Planet of the Apes enthusiasts, this animated series came after, the original films of the 60s and 70s, and then they even had a failed TV show, apparently, which, I don't know, I'm kind of interested in checking that out someday. But for now, yes, this is a return of the Planet of the Apes. It ran from 1975 to 1976, one season, 13 episodes, and we are watching the premiere episode or pilot called Flames of Doom. It premiered September 6th, 1975, and here's a synopsis. 3 astronauts are catapulted into the future. Soon, Judy, that's one of the astronauts, is swallowed by the Earth, and Bill and Jeff, the other astronauts, wind up in the company of primitive humans who are captured by talking apes. All right, so before we get into the IMDb, I'll see you on the other side in the Obscuritron, all right?
All righty.
Welcome to your
feature presentation. All right, so the creators of the animated series Return to the Planet of the Apes are one David H. DePatie. That's an interesting name. And like this guy had a huge animation career. Basically, he has passed. He's a producer and a writer. He worked on Looney Tunes. I think he basically created the Pink Panther animated shorts, the 80s Incredible Hulk cartoon, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and The Grinch's The Cat in the Hat. So big names, big names. And this was also co-created by Friz Freelang. Not Fritz, Yahel. Friz. And yeah, he's also had a huge career spanning from 1928 up until his death of 1995. And if you go onto the IMDb, it's even got stuff past that, up all the way until 2015, just because I guess they were repackaging a lot of the stuff he worked on. He worked on Looney Tunes and Pink Panther, a lot of the same stuff as David H. DePatie as well. He probably just invented animation. And this was directed by one Doug Wildey, and he directed all 13 episodes of Return of the Planet of the Apes. And he's usually like an animation director and storyboard director. He worked on one of our favorite shows, Exo Squad. Make sure you check out the past episode of that. Thundar the Barbarian, and Johnny Quest, which we also covered a while back. And this is written by one Larry Spiegel. He worked on some ABC after-school specials, something called The Bear Who Slept Through Christmas, and then this B-movie called...
Isn't that every bear?
Yeah, right? And then this B-movie called Survival Run. But yeah, most of his stuff is, animation. And I just wanted to mention the music, because I thought the music played a huge role in this, since, as Yahel said, most of this episode is people wandering around the desert. And it is done by Dean Elliott, and he worked on Alvin and the Chipmunks, the 80s cartoon. Once again, Thundar. I guess all these guys met on Thundar the Barbarian. Saturday Morning Supercade, which we've sort of covered. And then from there, he went to Sex Kittens Go to College.
The natural progression.
Yeah. Absolutely. And of course, Planet of the Apes was or is owned by 20th Century Fox, who is now owned by Disney. It's really weird thinking that the apes are owned by Disney, but that's just me. Anyway, who are some of the voice actors who brought Return of the Planet of the Apes to life?
Well, up first we have Austin Stoker. He plays Jeff Allen, one of the astronauts / scientist. I guess all these astronauts are scientists. Fairly successful career. He was in Assault on Precinct 13, the original one.
Nice.
Not the one with Ethan Hawke, I think this is the remake.
Yes.
He was in Airport, 1975. He's a bunch of other things that a lot of people haven't heard of. He was on the Incredible Hulk TV series for an episode. He was in a few episodes of The $6 Million Man. He was in the original SWAT TV series. So, yeah, pretty decent career, which actually goes for a lot of the people that worked on this voice actors. Henry Corden is played by, I'm sorry, General Orko is played by Henry Corden. That makes more sense.
Okay.
That makes a lot more sense. Anyways, you might know him from The Ten Commandments.
Ooh.
No, that's
your
not
favorite
what you know him
movie.
From? Yes. But anyways, he's been or was in a ton of animation stuff. He's got like 268 credits to his name. Scooby-Doo Meets Batman was the last thing he did.
Nice.
But he was in a bunch of Flintstones movies as Fred Flintstone. He was on the Weird Al show.
Oh, man, we got to cover that someday.
Well, he played the voice of Fred Flintstone in the Weird Al show.
Nice.
Anyways, he was in Alvin and the Chipmunks. Basically, Heathcliff, all the terrible things that Steve likes, he was in. I'm kidding.
You're the one who wants to cover Heathcliff.
It sucks. Uh, anyways, moving along, we've got Edwin Mills, who plays Dr. Cornelius. He was in a bunch of stuff too. I guess the Kojak was kind of like the one thing that stuck out to me, but a lot of uncredited stuff. So probably just a lot of
so
extras.
not the Chicken Chronicles from 1977.
No, not the Chicken Chronicles. Tom Williams plays Bill Hudson. He was in 4 episodes of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air as the voice of the baby. Alrighty.
What? Okay.
But yeah, he also spent time as an associate producer and PA on Dragnet. 98 episodes.
Okay.
Dragnet, 66 episodes of Adam 12. So these are like old TV series, obviously. Nothing else really that caught my eye.
Don't forget about Rover Dangerfield.
Well, I was going to say he was in an episode of Batman the Animated Series.
Oh, for him.
And weirdly enough, he did baby voices again on Saved by the Bell and the Finelli voice. Is this the guy? And 30-something and Night Court. Is this the guy you call when you need a baby voice?
This is your baby guy. Yeah.
So do you think maybe it's just that like his baby voices are part of like some like sound library that these shows can buy, but they have to credit him for residuals is probably what it is?
That sounds about right. And now they'll just have AI do it. No worries.
Yeah, that's fine. Then we've got Philippa Harris as the voice of Dr. Zira. Mm-hmm. She only did a few things, 4 of them in total, and this was the last thing she did. Then we've got 2 more to go. We've got Richard Blackburn as Dr. Zaius. Only did 6 things. This was the 2nd thing he ever did. So not really a lot of note there, although he did direct an episode of Tales from the Dark Side.
Nice.
Yeah.
It all comes back around.
Last but not least, we've got Claudette Nevins, who plays the voice of Judy Franklin. She had a pretty decent career, worked until 2006, 106 credits to her name, reoccurring character on Jag, had a couple appearances on Providence. She had a reoccurring character on Melrose Place. Wow. Lewis and Clark. She was on Beverly Hills 90210. I mean, like lots of guest starring stuff. But more importantly, Steven, she was a Sonya officer in Star Trek Insurrection.
Nice. Oh, so we finally have a Star Trek connection. Okay, I'm gonna play it right now.
Oh no! We've just entered another Star Trek connection.
All right. So you ready to talk through this riveting pilot episode?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I'm going 8 for, but that doesn't make any sense. Though. It's not grammatically correct.
That's okay. Just you go ahead and force that ape pun in there, no matter what it takes.
You're right. You're right.
Hey, if you're going to stay out here,
Grammar of the Planet of the Apes. That's what we're going to title this episode, everyone.
Yeah. All right. So we open on a desert. And I hope you like deserts because you're going to see a lot of desert in this.
I hope you like different shades of beige and lots of browns because you're going to get plenty of that.
We see a lot of sand dunes. And no, dear listener, this is not Dune, unfortunately. It's Return to the Planet of the Apes. So, yeah, basically this is the cold open. We're panning over the dunes and then we see what basically looks like upside down bodies like hanging from like trees or mountains or something, which pretty hardcore for what this is actually supposed to be a Saturday morning cartoon.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it's in the Wikipedia.
I am shocked.
Yeah, I know. And so yeah, there's some really good creepy music at the beginning, and this show has a lot to be desired, but I do say that it does a good job sort of capturing the sort of creepy atmosphere of the original Planet of the Apes movie just from the opening here.
This show is, very clear. It's clear that it's like cheap 1970s. And it makes sense now you're saying it was a Saturday morning cartoon because it's got that cheapness of like lots of reused frames, lots of just like stills and panning. But at the same time, I found the animation to be pretty ambitious.
Yes. I agree.
Some of the shots too. Oh, good. We have a spam bot in the chat. It's on Twitch though. But
Lovely.
yeah, like so it seemed like even though they were being conservative with like, how much animation gets used at times,
Hmm.
I will say like the quality of the drawings on those still shots tended to be good. There was good use of shadows throughout this. So I mean, they did more than I thought they would do. Well,
Yeah, I agree. It's minimal, but it's also cinematic at the same time.
yeah,
And does it remind you of another sort of 60s-ish, 70s cartoon that I mentioned earlier?
that you mentioned or that we covered.
Well, both really.
Are you talking about like that Dungeons and Dragons?
No, well, I mean a little. I mean the original Johnny Quest.
Oh, yeah, I could see that. I think that this was better in terms of the quality of the animation. It's not even the quality of the animation; it's just the choices that they made.
Right.
Like if they were like, okay, we're gonna show like on the Tron here, the obscure Tron, you keep showing one of the apes with binoculars.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a great drawing.
Yeah.
It's just like still, but it's great choice. Like there's a lot of like nice little shadow work in there. So I found this to be a good use of it.
Yeah, for sure. But Doug Wildy, the director, is actually the co-creator of Johnny Quest. So it's I feel like there's a lot similar sort of animation style is
And
what
this
I'm
is
trying.
after Johnny Quest, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so that could also be why it's better.
Sure. So we see an ape blow like what is basically a war horn. Good thing I said war horn and not something else. Then we see more apes, and there's lightning. For some reason, there's a lot of lightning clashes in this. I guess they thought that was
Not a lot of
really
rain though.
dramatic and cool, like back then. And then I guess from there they cut to the opening. The theme song plays, and the theme song even reminds me of Johnny Quest. And there's various still images of like apes floating around here. What did you think of the theme and the like the floating images that went along with it?
I liked it. And I usually don't like it's very 70s, I will
Mm-hmm.
say.
Oh,
Uh, but the music I think really makes it work. The visuals, because the visuals it is like, oh, here's like a red and black drawing of this. Now here's a yellow and black drawing of this, where it's black outline and then
mm-hmm.
yellow background or whatever, rather than having like the ape or the human colored in whatever the skin tone they normally have. So yeah, I liked it actually.
As did I. Yeah, I can't wait to hear this soundtrack in the background of Sex Kitten Goes to College. It's going to be amazing. So we see we get the title card, and it says the name of the episode. As we said, Flames of Doom, which there are definitely flames in this, as we are going to see. But first, we get a space capsule with a NASA logo on it. This is obvious sort of callbacks to the original Planet of the Apes movie, which of course is based on a novel, which is of the same name by a guy named Pierre Boulez. You've never read it, have you? Or
No.
yeah, me either. But according to Wikipedia, this animated series is actually closer to the novel than the original movies were because the movies had like extreme budget limitations.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so moving on, we see our astronauts, Jeff, Judy, and Bill. And Bill is basically recording a captain's log. I bet Yahel was just rock hard for that. He says they've traveled 105 years in the future due to the speed of their craft, which is just the most basic of, space capsules or whatever.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like the modules that in the 60s that astronauts returned from the moon returned to Earth in.
Yeah, I agree. Something that doesn't really reek of like speed, but hey, maybe they were trying to be accurate back then. I don't know. So an alarm sounds, and then their craft just begins falling out of orbit. Did they ever even really have a reason why that was happening?
I don't think that they did. Well, didn't they get caught in something like there was some kind of anomaly or something that was like launched this. Yeah, because the speed of the craft goes crazy, and then like their what do they call like their thing that measures Earth time or
A
whatever?
clock.
Yeah, but they call that's actually no, they call it the Earth clock.
There you
That's
go.
what they call it. But basically, it shows what year it is on Earth when now because they're going so fast, and this is a real theory. It's a theory of relativity basically.
Sure.
Because they're going so fast, they've actually gone into the future. Coincidentally, this happens to astronauts that are in the International Space Station for a long time because of how fast they're going in orbit around the sun. They do travel into the future, like it's like milliseconds or something
Right.
like that.
Yes, I've heard that.
It's a real thing.
Now, my question to you, Yahel, is that what kind of effects does that affect guys that go into an underwater prison? Does that have any kind of?
The rules of physics don't apply.
Okay,
At the underwater prison, Steve. Don't be an idiot.
Right. I should have known.
You don't be a fool, please.
Yeah. So, all right, we cut to there was an ape giving a speech to a court of other apes. Like, just imagine if you were to tune in to like C-SPAN and just see nothing but apes. That's kind of what we're looking at here. The gorillas, of course, they're talking about destroying the humans. They want to wipe them out, but the apes want to study them. And then in the end, the council decides not to eradicate the humans, but to continue hunting them and keeping them as pets. But if they talk, they will be destroyed. Perfectly normal. Yeah, I'm surprised there wasn't a lightning strike there. Anything to add about that scene?
No.
All right. So then we cut back to the astronauts. They are now basically on a beach. Again, this is all very familiar if you saw the original movie. And they're basically trying to figure out where and when they are. They figure out that they're 2,000 years in the future, so no one can come and rescue them. And they've only got a little bit of food, so they move out. And this is basically when we get a very long montage of them walking around in the desert. At first, I wrote down, great cinematography, which it is. There are lots of pans, which I guess those are really cheap to do back then.
Yep.
And they just, at this point, they wander it for a while and continue wandering. Did you have anything? I mean, there's still plenty more montage to get to, but anything off the bat that you want to mention?
No, there was just a lot of wandering around. I guess, as they're wandering around, they are like losing, they're getting thirsty. So that's like a thing. And, they're constantly just getting weaker.
Sure.
So if you're into that.
Like if you get off on watching people suffer in the desert?
Yeah.
That's a thing?
I'm sure there's a subreddit for it.
Sure, yeah, somewhere. So I guess there's like I don't know, a cross dissolve, and then we see an empty canteen indicating that they're out of water. Then they wander some more, and there's more pans, and then there's finally lightning, but no rain. Boy, what a tease. That's when, like, the astronauts, they probably already didn't believe in God, but then they'd be like, why are you fucking with me, God? Like, there's lightning, but no rain? Yeah. Why are you testing me?
I like how they turn into 1940s gangsters, by the way.
They always do.
See? I told you there was no Lord. No empirical evidence, see?
That's how, every atheist show on YouTube should sound.
Steve, maybe we should put together, 1940s, 50s, gangster pilot, but they're atheists.
That would be interesting. Because, in the movies, they're always seen as, Catholic.
Yeah, there was real Christian.
Yeah, which makes no sense. I'm going to blow you away with my Tommy gun.
Have you met these Christians lately?
No, I haven't. I live in L.A., which is godless and soulless. So
they love their violence, these Christians.
How about that? Well, there was the Crusades, so...
Yeah.
All right. Now that we've alienated anyone who believes in God, who may have been listening...
That's fine. Their God should have made them avoid listening to the show.
That's a good point.
It's not our fault. It's his.
Yep, I blame him for everything.
See, he always if he was real, see, he wouldn't have sent us here.
He would have done something about it.
Yeah.
Now, God.
Anyways, Mickey, I need you to run some numbers.
Yeah. Shit. This is too good. This is better than what we're covering. All right, so where are we? Okay, so they're lightning and no rain, and then they're wandering some more. And at this point, I actually wrote down, wow, how long are they going to wander? And then we see like an ape sees them. He's sort of like off to the side, and I guess our astronauts are just too fatigued to notice that there's a, evolved ape watching them. And then they wander by what I guess is supposed to be the like buried Brooklyn Bridge. It's like sticking out of the sand, which is a cool image. Like, I mean, it's a good thing that thing showed up because I was getting bored. And then Judy, she says to go ahead and leave her. She can't go on because she also apologized for being a woman too. Said, I'm a woman. I hope that's okay. Sorry, it's Dark Place stuff.
It's a reference to Dark Place.
Yeah.
To Steve's misogyny. No, it's a reference to Dark Place, which is a great show. Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it.
Absolutely.
Unless you're a Christian, of course.
Well, I mean, we worship Garth, and if you watch Dark Place, you probably will too. So, Judy, she gives a ring to one of the other astronauts to give to her sister, assuming they're able to find their way out of this. And then some rocks fall down out of nowhere. There's basically an avalanche. I mean, not out of nowhere. There's like a stack of rocks on a mountain nearby. They basically pick Judy up and run out of the way. And then fire appears out of nowhere. I wonder if the fire thing is like from the novel, because I can't imagine... they're sitting around trying to save money on animation, and they're like, oh, why don't we just have a fire, which I feel is probably hard to animate, like just show up out of nowhere.
Yeah, but you can reuse. You only need like a few frames. Like they do it with the smoke later.
Oh, sure. Yes, they do.
The smoke is basically like really like 1 second of animation just looped back and forth.
Right, of course. Classic Hanna-Barbera looping. Even though this isn't even Hanna-Barbera. Then there's some really cool close-ups when they're like getting freaked out by the fire. They like change the color up and stuff. Of course, they're just reusing other close-ups, but they're getting some mileage out of their animation. The fire consumes their packs, and then it just stops out of nowhere. They're freaked out, but they just press on because, I mean, what else are you going to do, right?
Right.
So they head towards a mountain that only has one flower, and they get excited because they're like, see, it shows that life can exist on this planet. And then there's more lightning, and this time there's an earthquake. And I want you to tell me what happens to Judy here.
Is this where, like, Judy, like, collapses?
Well, she gets basically sucked into, like, so there's the ground opens up, basically, and Judy falls into it. And then
that's right.
The earth then basically fixes itself, and then Judy's gone. But the way it's animated is, I don't know, kind of weird. It's like, why did she slip in, but not the other two dudes?
Yeah, it was a little weird. But, I mean, I don't know. I just chalked it up to it's cheap 70s animation.
Sure. I just wanted to hear you say it.
No, it wasn't. No, you're right. It wasn't great.
So the remaining astronauts head to high ground to look for Judy, and then they see ape faces carved into a mountain. And one of them comments, "Why would anyone carve ape faces into a mountain?" And yeah, there's not a lot of dialogue in this cartoon that's supposed to be for kids on Saturday morning. Maybe adults were watching animation back in the 70s.
Yeah, because a lot of it is about like just kind of setting the mood and showing how like desperate and desolate they are.
Like the only 8-year-old I could see like watching this in the 70s with his bowl of Lucky Charms is one Yahel Velasquez, maybe. Maybe me. I don't know. We'll see. So they run into some primitive people near a cave, and they basically ask them for help, and then they faint. The primitives then help them. They sort of come to. Can you describe the primitives, especially the females versus the males?
I mean, the males look like they're all like 70 years old and dirty as hell.
Right, like your typical sort of Cro-Magnon man.
Yeah, they're all dressed in like typical 1960s through 80s caveman clothes, you know?
Like a smock or something, or
Yeah,
a fur
yeah.
or something like that. Yeah.
You know, the men have like very unkempt appearances. The women look like they have been doing their eyelashes. They look great.
To sum it up, yeah, the women are hot and the men are not. But
Yeah.
I guess that's what you get when all the men working on or all the people working on this are men. But hey, whatever. It was kind of like that in the original movie too. So Bill notices that one of the female primitives has a tag on, and then they realize that she wasn't even born when they left Earth. I guess just giving further evidence about where they are in the timeline. And then they ask Lady Primitive about Brent, who is Brent the guy who was like in charge of their
We never meet him in this episode, but it was the name on her dog tag that she was wearing.
Right. And then she says her name is Nova, and Nova was the Lady Primitive from the original Charlton Heston Planet of the Apes, which
Okay.
I thought she died in that at the end. But I mean, clearly this isn't like the same sort of continuity. They're kind of like, I feel like this is a soft reboot, if anything. So then they hear one of those ape war horns. They all run and hide, but like Jeff and the other astronaut, they just sort of stand around. Oh, his name is Bill. And then the ape military shows up and they attack. What do you think of the ape military here?
It's funny that like their vehicles are basically like 1970s army trucks. So that was a little odd that it was, not really like, I don't know, different in some way.
Sure.
And I don't know. I don't really remember from the original movies if like the apes had more advanced technology than humans of the 70s and 60s did or not. But I mean, it was fine. They spend a lot of time on panning here, though. Again,
Sure.
and they reuse like this animation thing of the humans inside the cave running back and forth,
Oh,
like
yeah.
for cover or whatever. And the humans running back and forth, there's like 3 or 4 of them animated, but they're animated just in black, so it's just like their silhouettes.
Right.
And man, they must use that like 7 times throughout this episode.
Indeed, yeah. Another thing that I think is funny about, well, to answer your question, no, the technology in the Charlton Heston one, like they didn't have any tanks or anything like that. They were just sort of like on horseback, basically. And but what I like here is that these military vehicles, and this is just nitpicking and making fun of the animation, basically. Like there's no tread, no shadows. Like they just sort of hover over the ground, basically,
Right.
not leaving any evidence that they were ever there. So basically, they throw smoke bombs into the cave, which cause a lot of the primitive humans to choke. Some of them escape, some of them stay there. Jeff and Nova crawl away. Bill says he's right behind him. Why did Bill stay behind?
I don't know. Well, he said he was gonna like do something,
Yeah.
but it's not really like
Clear.
explained.
No, it's not. And then out of nowhere, like it's funny, they showed up with all of this military hardware, and General Ape, I'm not sure what his name is, he says to take them alive. And so Nova and Jeff, they slide out of the cave. Bill passes out and then gets captured, and then General says, take them to Ape City. Don't you love the fact that they called it Ape City? Have you ever visited Human City, Yahel? You ever been
One of
there?
my favorite cities to go to as a human being.
Ironically, it's a ghost town. No one lives there. But yeah, I don't know. What a name. Again, I don't know if that's like book accurate, but whatever. It is what it is. So Nova and Jeff go to, I guess, like what is supposed to be like Nova's sort of a treehouse. Then we are in the Ape City, and basically Dr. Zaius and Zira and like the good apes from the movies are sitting around, and they are talking about that the scuttlebutt in Ape City is that new humans will be arriving, and they are looking forward to choosing which human they will get to study. Then we get a shot of astronaut Bill in a cage that's being like, I guess, pulled by a horse or something. And then that's the end, just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Anything to add on any of that?
No, I think you covered it. Like, I mean, like, I want to say not a lot happens, but that's not really true. I mean, they do establish, how they got out there, why it's the year that it is. There is a little bit of intrigue too with Brent because on the dog tag, one thing we didn't mention is that the year that he was born is on the dog tag, and it's 100 years after the astronauts left Earth. So somebody else from the future of the astronauts got there before they did. So, like this Brent person. So that's kind of interesting. But it does feel like it ends a bit abruptly. But I think a lot of that is because there's just like, it's only like 24 minutes?
Yeah.
And I want to say like, would you say it's accurate to say like 3, maybe even 4 minutes of it is just panning?
Yeah, I think you're being generous. It's probably
maybe
even
5
more.
or 6.
Yeah. They're definitely trying to set the mood with atmosphere and everything, and get as much mileage as they can from their from their animation, what little animation they have. Well, we'll run the bumper, and then I'll ask you another question. Are you ready to render your verdict?
Let's do it.
Remembered or obliterated? That is the question.
All right, Dr. Yahel, do you think Return of the Planet of the Apes should be remembered for all of human history, or tossed in the black void of obscurity, never to be heard from again?
So I think I'm going to surprise you. I actually liked this a lot. Like I thought it was pretty good. I guess and part of it might have been that my expectations were very low. I was expecting like a kid's cartoon.
Sure.
And it did not come off that way at all. It felt more like cartoon for adults, especially because it was like slow.
Sure.
There was just a lot of like setting the mood. So yeah, it's a remember for me actually.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with you. I was very surprised by this as well. I'd never seen it. I didn't even know it existed, actually. I just, I knew that movie was coming out, and I was like, let me see if there's some weird, obscure ape stuff that I've never watched before. It definitely gave me Johnny Quest vibes, and I was really surprised that they were able to recapture like the vibe of the original movies, which I already loved. And I really want to know what happens next. How about you? Do you think you would ever watch another episode?
I'll probably forget to. I mean, realistically, I'm probably not going to watch another episode, but not because the show is bad or anything.
Right.
I just know me.
I could see, if you were the type of person who were into altering your consciousness with things such as edibles or smoking devices.
Sure.
I could see you really probably enjoying the pilot here, probably the rest of the episodes as well, but obviously we haven't watched them. So anyway, for all those reasons, Return of the Planet of the Apes shall be remembered.
In accordance to Obscurity Now, the most important streaming YouTube podcast in all of the internet, you shall be remembered. Yes. Good show. Good show.
All right. What a fun little hidden gem. Well, maybe not fun, but interesting to say the least.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, anything else you want to talk about before we sign off here? Did this make you want to watch some other ape movies, maybe?
I don't know. I mean,
You don't. All you
Planet of
watch
the
is
Apes
what
is
I tell
all
you to
right.
watch, right? Just stuff
yeah,
for this
yeah,
show.
of course. But I mean, Planet of the Apes, it's fine. I'm really surprised that they're still making these movies because, I mean, they're so expensive.
But they're good
And
though. They're good.
yeah, but I mean, are they making back this money? I mean, I just find it hard to
They
believe
must
that.
have. Yeah.
I don't know. I think something's up here.
You think there's some sort of ape conspiracy going on?
No, no, no. They must be making, but you know, it's just weird because obviously they must be successful, right,
Mm-hmm.
for them to keep making these movies. But you never hear like people really talk about them. They don't have like a fandom in the same way that other movies that cost this much have a fandom.
Right. Like I'm guessing this must do big, maybe internationally. It's just
Yeah, could be.
that'd be my guess, possibly. But yeah, that's basically it. I will say, by the time this episode airs, I mean, since nobody came and watched the live stream, I will be hosting my first panel at a Comic-Con Revolution, talking about the creation of Escape to Earth audio drama. So if you're local to California, you should stop by. It's at 3:30 tomorrow, room 100 or something. I don't know. Check the.
I don't know either.
Oh, are you coming? You gonna stop by?
Oh, yeah, I'll be there. I'll be the guy you don't recognize.
It's too bad though, because you're the at Reptilian Media you have the most tenure. You're the most tenured employee.
Even more than you?
Whoa, you just blew my mind, bro. I feel like I watched something that I was gonna recommend to you, but maybe not. I don't know. I've been really busy. Having a real job sucks. I'm sure you remember what it was like.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do remember.
All right. Well, you ready to call it?
Yeah, good.
All right. Well, make sure you comment. If you too are an actor from one of the things we've covered, please comment and.
Are you Mark Wahlberg? Please leave a comment.
Yeah, tell us how much you don't care about the stuff that you're in, as long as there's a big hearty paycheck, Mark Wahlberg.
Well, we alienated him with the religious talk.
Oh
'cause,
yeah,
you know.
that's right. Well, I mean, I was never really a big fan to begin with. Were you?
Oh wow.
You like Mark Wahlberg?
Mark Wahlberg? Nah, I mean, I would never see a movie because he's in
Right.
it. I've seen some of his movies where he's fine.
Yeah,
you know, but
I'd say he runs the gamut of like mediocre to annoying.
yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So comment, please help us fight the algorithm and like and share and tell all your friends about Obscurity Now. And we will see you next Sunday as we continue to unearth more obscure media only on Obscurity Now. See you next time.
You've been enjoying Obscurity Now, a podcast that's recorded live to tape and streamed to Twitch and YouTube. Subscribe so you never miss an episode or hilarious quip. Take us with you by following the download links provided in the show notes to wherever you get podcasts. And take notice of our various social media links. If that's what you're into, I'm not here to judge. And make sure you join us live next week at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific as we continue to discuss more obscure media only on Obscurity Now.